First thing we're going to do, we're going to come to one side or another and we're going to remove a portion of this trim. You want to just grab and just kind of wiggle and pull. We only need to get the trim kind of back a little bit so that this is...
Turn the wheel to give yourself better access to the lining.
Remove the rivets. Pry up the center of the rivet first. This will unlock it. Next, pry up the base of the fastener. Remove the bolts by turning them counterclockwise.
The steps needed to access the other side are the same as this side.
So now what we want to do is we want to pull this liner back, and if we come kind of right here, there's two bolts that kind of face downward right here and right here. We want to remove these bolts. These are 10 millimeters, and I'm actually going to use this little snake bit here to kind of get these. You could probably use a combination wrench or something. It's not that bad.
Remove the bolts by turning them counterclockwise.
Turn the wheel to give yourself better access to the lining.
Remove the trim. Pry up the center of the rivet first. This will unlock it. Next, pry up the base of the fastener. Remove the lining by prying it back. Remove the bolts by turning them counterclockwise.
So now we're going to come underneath the car, and if we look kind of towards the middle, there's going to be 4 Torx bolts that we need to remove. And then there's also another single 7 millimeter bolt that kind of is on each side. There's one there, and then there's one here. That actually is the last remaining bolt that secures the mud flap to the car. So we're going to have to remove those, and then the Torx bolts.
Remove the bolts by turning them counterclockwise.
So now we're under the car, and there's kind of a row of 4 bolts here. Now there's a bolt here, and then there's another bolt kind of right next to all these bolts. So there's really 8 bolts down here.
Remove the Torx bolts by turning them counterclockwise.
So now we got the 3 bolts in the bumper underneath and underneath off, so we can pull this bumper down. Now we want to kind of pull down and out. There are some tabs that kind of go into the headlight here, and this may take a little force, but you want to pull down and kind of out like that. You can see it kind of disconnected a little bit. Now I'm just going to leave this here for now. We're going to go do the same thing on the opposite side. Once you have the side off on the passenger side of the vehicle, there is a connector that connects this bumper, and if you reach right in here, you can just disconnect it at this point. So that's what we're going to do. Just reach in and disconnect that connector. That's right there.
Push the tab and pull the connector to remove it.
This bumper is kind of attached to this kind of trim piece here, this grille, towards the middle. So once we have this pulled back, we're actually going to remove this with it at the same time. So now that we have this back, we're going to come, and right here, it's kind of facing this way, there's going to be another 7 millimeter bolt that holds this grille on. So we'll just pop that 7 millimeter bolt out. We'll go do the same thing on the other side.
Remove the rivets. Pry up the center of the rivet first. This will unlock it. Next, pry up the base of the fastener.
So once we have those out, that's kind of attached to this air intake, and really all we want to do is just push it back, like ever so slightly.
Remove the bolts by turning them counterclockwise. Remove the bolts by turning them counterclockwise. Remove the panel by prying it up. Remove the bolts by turning them counterclockwise.
Now we're going to come lastly, and there's a bolt like kind of right here. You have to kind of get it from going like behind the housing. It kind of goes in right about there. So it's a 7 mil, and we'll get in here, and we got to get that bolt out. Okay. So now we're going to come and locate the bolt on this side. Again, it's kind of underneath here, almost straight back. So we'll come kind of underneath here. So now we have the sides kind of disengaged, and we're going to take off this bottom section. Now, there's 2 bolts right about there and there that hold this on. These bolts actually come this way, so they're like facing the radiator. You're going to have to get like a little ratchet wrench or something and try and get your hand up in here and kind of feel for the bolt. And then once you've found the bolt, you're going to have to get in here with this ratchet and take both of these out. This is pretty difficult, and it can be quite time consuming. So just try to be patient here. But there's one right there, and then there's another one right here. Again, just feel for it, get in here, turn it counterclockwise, and take it out. Both of those are 7 millimeter bolts. So now that we have those out, we have the sides disengaged. We should be able to come to one side or the other and kind of pull this the rest of the way out here. Yeah, you want to kind of hold it up like this and then push down here. It's going to sound terrible, but... Okay, so there are some wiring harnesses that are kind of clipped in right here. You can kind of just pull these out. And then if you want to remove this the whole way, there is another connector right here. We come over here, same thing, there's a bunch of wiring, and this is just a bunch of like clips, so get a rivet puller or something, or you can just pull these out. Now we're going to attempt to take the grill off, but before we do that we need to come to both sides here and take a few bolts out. Now there's one right here, it's facing this way, so we'll probably just come through the wheel well here and get this guy. This is a 7 mil. The next thing we want to look for is we want to come right about here and look behind here. You can kind of see it if you look in this way, but you can also kind of feel it. You're probably going to need a combination wrench. It's the only thing that's going to fit on there. If you have a ratcheting one, I would highly recommend it. It's a 7 millimeter. And we're going to get up in here and remove that bolt. This may take a while. This is very finicky, and you're probably only going to be able to turn it a little at a time. If you have a ratcheting combination wrench, it should help out immensely. So now that we have those 2 out, we're going to go do the same thing on the opposite side, and then this grill, that should allow us here to pull this grill off. So now we're going to come to the grill and remove the grill here. Now there are 2 little tabs kind of up in the upper corner here, so that's kind of where I would start. Just kind of grab here, wiggle and pull. If you're having trouble, you can kind of get a screwdriver in there or something, but if it comes out, then we can just kind of wiggle and pull here. We'll do the same thing over here. Make sure not to let this fall on the ground. Okay, this side seems a little stuck, so we're just going to kind of help it out here a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to bring the grill back in. Now, We do have a couple tabs on the top. Those kind of go into these areas over here. So if you want to kind of just line those up, that might be the easiest way to do this. So now we're going to put the bolts back in that secure this grill here. Now again, there was one right here that kind of faces this way. There's the one that's kind of up underneath here that was like difficult that we had to take out with the combination. And then there was the other one that was kind of up here. We did take this one out kind of early in the procedure, but we're going to stick it back in right now just because that one does secure this grill. So we'll bring this one in. So now we're going to come and put the bolts in that secure this grill. Again, there's the one up here, there's the one kind of right there, and then you have that other one that's kind of up in here. So we'll put these in. So we're going to bring the bumper back in and we're going to kind of attach this first before we reconnect any wiring. So we're going to kind of want to put it in here kind of like this and get kind of this middle part in here. Getting this middle part back into place is very difficult with the clips that are right here. So you're going to have to be pretty patient. There's not really a good way to do it. But once you get it up there, it should be pretty flush right here. And then you should be okay with that. And then what you're going to do is we're going to go back, and then we have those screws that we took out that were kind of behind here. There's one right here, and then there's another one right there. And we're going to go ahead and put those back in order to secure this a little bit better here. So we'll just get in here. Now that we have this back up into position, at this point I'm going to come and reconnect the wiring harnesses down here. It's a little bit easier to do this than trying to reconnect those and then put this bumper up. So that's why we did it this way.
Push the connector straight in to connect the new bulb. Make sure that any wires that have become disconnected are replaced. Push the connector straight in to connect the new bulb.
Okay, now that we have everything all connected, we're going to come to one side or the other and get this back up into place here. Now, when you're doing this, you might want to look on the inside here, because where we took out one of those bolts, that one section has to go like over this other section here. So you might have to kind of finagle this a little bit here. Just kind of push it back up into place. Now when we put the bolts back in there, that will kind of cinch this up a little bit, so don't worry if there's a little bit of a gap there. Okay, so now that we have the bumper back on, we're going to go ahead and put the two bolts that are facing downward here back in. If you are having trouble with these, you can actually do these from the engine bay as well. These are the 10 millimeters. So there's one, and then two.
Replace the bolts by turning them clockwise. Replace the rivets. Align the base of the rivet first. Next, push down on the center to lock it in place. Align the trim and secure it to the vehicle.
Turn the wheel to give yourself better access to the lining.
Replace the bolts by turning them clockwise. Replace the bolts by turning them clockwise. Replace the rivets. Align the base of the rivet first. Next, push down on the center to lock it in place. Align the trim and secure it to the vehicle. Replace the Torx bolts by turning them clockwise.
It's a good idea to hand tighten the bolts before securing them to the vehicle.
Replace the lower panel. Replace the bolt by turning it clockwise. Replace the lower panel. Replace the bolt by turning it clockwise. Replace the bolts by turning them clockwise. Align the panel with the body before securing it to the vehicle. It's important to make sure it's set properly, otherwise it won't attach correctly. Replace the bolts by turning them clockwise. Replace the bolts by turning them clockwise.
Replace the air filter intake vent. Align the vent and pivot it into place.
Align the base of the rivet first. Next, push down on the center to lock it in place.